Today we're going to take a look at generational differences among D&D players. And specifically, we're going to be taking a look at how the differences among the different editions of Dungeons & Dragons, all the way from 1st edition to 5th edition, has affected our development as gamers. Hey, Luke Hart here. I have been a Dungeon Master since high school, and I create weekly videos with information and resources to help other DMs run awesome games. So if you're looking to level up your D&D game, roll a crit on that subscribe button down below, and also slash that bell icon so you don't miss anything. Okay, so this is the second of the 2 videos I filmed with my friend Joe, who has been playing Dungeons & Dragons since he was like 6 years old. Now, in the first video, we talked about player morale, and I really think that that sets the stage for a lot of the things that we're going to talk about in this video. So if you haven't watched that one yet, I will put a link to it up in the card. Feel free to check it out. I don't think it's mandatory to watch it first. It is rather long, but it might be useful in understanding a little bit better the things that we're going to talk about in this video. But anyway, in this video, what Joe and I are going to do is just have a conversation about the generational differences among gamers, and especially we're going to talk about the differences among the different editions from 1st edition to 5th edition, and how those differences affected our development as gamers. All right, and I think the reason that I think this topic is important, and the reason that my buddy Orange here thinks that this topic is important, is that understanding the differences, especially if you as a DM have a wide spectrum of players, like from different age groups that grew up with different editions, understanding where they're coming from is really going to help you run a better Dungeons & Dragons game. So, without me going on further, or more cameos from my cat Orange, who is still down here purring his head off wanting attention, let's rock and roll. All right, cool. So what we're going to do then today is we're going to talk a little bit about generational differences between just players in general, right? From like 1st edition to like all the way up to 5th edition and stuff like that, right? So why is that important? Like why would we want to know, like what difference does it make?
Pretty much, it's always good to know your players, know where they come from, know what they've been exposed to, so that you can kind of mind melt with them, be on the same wavelength as them.
Right.
They have expectations. Those expectations of what Dungeons & Dragons is and how it's played might be radically different from your expectations. And it's good to understand where they came from, and understand so you're not caught off guard as a Dungeon Master.
Right.
Sometimes you want to have mixed people of mixed age levels. So very young people working with very old timers.
Yeah.
Playing that, and they have totally different expectations about how this game should be played, and it's radically different. And if you're not aware, you can be really caught out.
Right. So just as a Dungeon Master, then, if you're aware of those differences and what the player's expectations might be, then that's just going to help, like, inform your decisions on how you run the game, and stuff like that, right? So,
and possibly mitigate some of the pitfalls.
Right, of those differences. Right. Okay. So then that's good. That's why we're going to talk about the subject then, right? To kind of frame it all, right? So I think you wanted to crawl through kind of some of the different editions, right?
Yeah. So we're on 5th edition now. The latest incarnation.
I think actually technically it's not called 5th edition. I think it's called D&D Next, is their official dubbing of it. Right? They didn't call it 5th edition.
They can call it whatever they want. I'm going to call it whatever I want. Like Pathfinder is 3.75 and Hackmaster is 1.1.
The thing is that for me it is so awesome that they didn't call it 5th edition, right? They called it D&D Next, because what I can do, like when I publish like adventures and stuff, I can say 5th edition or 5e adventure, and there's no infringement because it's not, they didn't officially call it 5e.
Well,
right?
in their licensing thing, I believe 5e is like their license agreement or something like that.
I think it's in there.
Yeah.
It's a D&D Next.
So in the 3rd edition, you had like the D20 compatible.
Yeah.
I believe they have a 5e compatible.
They do. There's an open game license for
Yeah.
5th edition and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna look at it again because I put it in the front of all my modules. But I don't think it says 5e.
Yeah.
I'll
navigating that stuff is not fun.
I'll look. But anyway, so anyway, 1st edition to 5th edition. Okay.
Yeah. So way back in the day. So just a little bit about myself.
Yeah.
Right. I started playing Dungeons and Dragons when I was 6 because my next door neighbor was this overly enthused guy who was like 4 years older than I was, and he really wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons.
So he was 10, and
Yeah.
you were 6.
Yeah, and so here he's dragging me along playing Dungeons and Dragons. Which I thought was super cool, you know. No idea what I'm doing. You know, I'm like, I stab him with my sword. I have a sword.
And that was cool, right? As a
Heck yeah.
6-year-old having a sword,
Yeah.
and you're stabbing things with it. That's what you do every day.
Yeah, but you know, just to kind of frame it, it was like,
Yeah. That was probably 1st edition, right?
yeah, it was in 1st edition
Yeah.
rules. You know, I had the book with the the demon with the jewel, and the guy's like stealing
Yeah,
the jewel.
the
out of
Malakand. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what we're doing, but I did know at some point I battled 20 gold dragons. But so 10-year-olds don't make great dungeon masters.
So you were 6 at the time, right?
Yeah.
I remember. When I started playing D&D, I was in high school and it was 2nd edition, right? And it was with my brother until I could get some other friends to play. So I started with 2nd edition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with 1st edition, I basically rolled forward, and eventually I started playing 2nd edition. And then I torture my younger brother, and with horrible things I would do to him and his friends. As the dungeon master, because what do older brothers do?
Right. Yeah.
Pick on their younger brother.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
now I have a rule set to do it with.
It's like, I'm playing the game, dude.
Yep, just playing the game.
Calm down.
Yep. I know he's dead.
That's how it usually ends.
Oh, fine. Here, have a ring of regeneration.
I remember when I would get my brother to play with me as well, and what we did is we would make a deal, like, if you play this game with me for a while, I'll play any game you want. Right, and he always wanted to play the game of life. You ever played that game?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, it's so stupid.
So when I was a kid, we were kind of taken with the game of life.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't like it. We thought it could be way better, and so we wanted to make a new game called the Game of Life and Death. And so it basically starts, you move 3 spaces forward and your car careens off the road and you're killed. And then now you have to play the game of life in heaven and hell.
That's awesome.
So it was
Spice it up. I hated that game.
much better game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I hated playing that game because it's just that you're rolling dice and you're gathering stuff. There's no point. You're not making any decisions or anything. It's just like you might as well. What's that snakes and ladders thing? Where it's just like, yeah. Anyway, all right. So okay.
So I give my brother a ring of regeneration. Now, the thing to know about 1st edition magic items can be crazy powerful, and specifically the ring of regeneration in 1st edition, 2nd edition, would allow it so that you couldn't be killed so long as you wore this ring. And so it was a way for my brother to enjoy playing the game because he knows his brother can't kill him.
But you still are killing him.
Yeah, I'm still killing him.
Technically,
You know. Yeah. So the game just got crazier and crazier, and he'd end up like in the belly of a dragon and then being like digested by acid until everybody's able to like cut him out, and I have to make him roll. It's like, did the ring fall off? From the,
Did your finger get disintegrated?
yeah, right. But it was a pretty nice like middle point that my brother really enjoyed.
Yeah, that's cool.
But with 1st edition, the thing to know is magic items were crazy powerful.
Right.
The spells in the game were just so some people say broken, just flat out unbalanced and completely broken.
Yeah.
But it also had some other like really detrimental parts, like for instance, wizards rolled a D4 for their hit points, and they maxed out on a bonus to Constitution of +2. Right? They couldn't have a Constitution bonus.
So you're averaging 4 hit points per level.
Yeah. For a character who rolled really, really well.
Yeah.
And you rolled for your character stats, as opposed to nowadays we have these build point systems and
Point
everybody.
buy is pretty popular now.
Yeah,
I think.
everybody does that.
And when you say roll, like, what do you mean by roll?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
like 46 dropped the lowest. I get some pretty darn good stats with that.
Yeah, you get 12s and up,
Right, I range them however I want. I usually have at least one 16, 17, or 18, you know?
Yeah, so in first edition, we literally rolled 3d6 and kept them in the place. You didn't move numbers. You didn't.
So it was in order.
Yeah.
Like if I rolled a 3 and that was my first roll, that's my strength.
Yep, that was your strength. And that character was totally worthless, as you thought as a player. But so that's what would happen. We'll come back to the kind of psychology of like what that means for that character and
Right.
how that game is actually played out.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to go through the other editions.
Sure, yeah.
Third edition came along and they simplified the
What about
math.
second edition?
Oh, so second edition was just an acceleration. It was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons up and over the first edition rules. It introduced concepts like Thaco and allowed you to gradually grow in power and in power scales.
Yeah.
And they introduced a whole labyrinthian rule set to people, and the people who were really good at Dungeons and Dragons at the time could navigate that labyrinthian rule set
Yeah.
and build characters that were functional, but and would survive over time. But yeah, there was really no character. We didn't really have a concept of character builds. Back
Second
then.
edition.
Yeah. I mean, you could make yourself a barbarian or a vindicator, which was a dwarven cleric fighter berserker thing,
Yeah.
and I mean, so there were all these options laid out all for you, and you could select just about any of them, and build moderately functional characters.
So you say the labyrinthian rule set and then moderately functional. So are you saying that the rule set was such that it was hard to get through it to get something that actually worked well?
Right.
This is second edition.
Yeah, so this is second edition.
Okay.
There were so many pitfalls in the rule set that lesser players would end up with these characters that were very subpar.
Yeah.
And then there were other characters that were extremely overpowered.
Got it.
And it was the Dungeon Master's sort of art that allowed those players to play together
Yeah.
and keep a functional and cohesive game rolling. But it took a lot of art.
Yeah.
Where nowadays we have like systems for calculating the difficulty of the monsters and
Right. Yep. They don't work that well, but
we
we have them.
we have them. They really don't work out. Which is a really good point that we should tell everybody. Like,
Yeah.
take that with a grain of salt.
Yes.
Know it's an art to
Yeah.
running monsters. Know that CR6 Strider, yes, that could kill people, but at the same time, that could have stomped that thing to death.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have known, but as far as story element, it was great.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. So like when I first started doing 5th edition, like I just ran all the encounters by the book and such that I calculated the difficulties and stuff and I built it all out. But I found in 5th edition at least that around 8th level, especially by 10th level, all of your CR difficulty levels are just out the door. Like I remember this one time, my players were like in the 9 hells and stuff, and I think they were level 12 or something, and like I decided, F it, I'm gonna give them some demons that are 3 times the deadly level, just to see what happens. They stomped them, dude.
What?
They had no problem at all defeating them. But then there'll be another encounter that it was like one single Glabrazu, which is like a CR9, and they were level 11-ish or something at the point. They almost wiped. One of them.
I've seen that
So it's so swingy, you know?
I've seen that happen. It comes down to, it's dice rolls and stuff like that. And sometimes it just goes horribly against the players.
Yeah.
I've seen, what was it? Oh yeah, I had the third level characters going up against 2 Darklings. Darklings are CR 1/2.
Yeah, they're not hard. Yeah.
Right, they're not hard at all. But they were up in a tower, and so in order to get to them, you needed to enter the base of the tower, go up there, and throw them off the tower. the door was locked with a DC 10 door.
Sure.
You know, nothing that. But the big old warrior comes right up to the door, rolls a 1, rolls a 7, rolls a, you know, and
Meanwhile, they're probably shooting at them or
yeah,
something?
yeah, and they're, you know, firing crossbow bolts down at them, and here I am watching a player of third level characters getting almost TPK'd by 2 Darklings, CR 1/2s. You know, and I'm like, wow, and it was just all incredibly bad dice rolls, one after another after another. And
well, there's a lot to be said too about the contribution the environment made to that challenge, right?
Sure, yeah,
because they couldn't get at them, especially if the Darklings were like shoot, crouch behind like the battlements, so you can't shoot at them.
So they had a +5 cover, right?
Yeah.
Because they were firing from the parapets, and
Yeah.
so they had some, I mean, very solid defensive. So it was a more difficult encounter than
the math would say.
The math would say.
Right.
But at the same time, it wasn't that difficult. You know, all they needed to open was the CR10 door.
They just couldn't do it.
They just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, the rogue sitting over there with his tools,
he's like, they're breaking.
What am I doing? You know, the monk tries to climb up the wall, and you know, it just falls. It was horrible.
Right.
I was about to TPK on what I thought was, you know,
like nothing. Who cares?
I wanted to make them feel like they were doing well with this encounter.
Right. Right. You put 2 monsters that you're like, these are pushovers. I want them to feel like heroes and have a quick little boo boo, we kill them. And then they can't even, they're getting destroyed.
crushed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's so
6 hit points at a time.
the art of like running those things, right?
Yeah.
You know, yeah, for sure. As opposed to just straight by the math. Yeah, that's a good point for sure.
And then, so as you're running that, you have to realize that, hey, this is totally not going right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe it's time to throw in another encounter piece that attacks the Darklings,
Right.
or some other factor. Maybe, you know, say one of the Darklings has run out of crossbow bolts. You know,
Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's good. If they're just shooting up at them, eventually they're going to run out of bullets. Sure, that makes sense.
So, you know, give your players a break, because
Yeah.
you don't want an easy encounter to consume 100% of their resources.
Right. Yeah.
Because that will make for the crappiest adventure ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean so that goes back into something we talked about in like the last time we talked, which was something that I just forgot about now. We were talking about something, and now I totally blanked on it. But it reminded me, for a brief moment, I remembered something, and I was going to talk about it, and then I forgot. So, but the art of it, and second edition was, you had a disparity between character power, right? And so the dungeon master, he was forced to really be artful about how he would create an adventure in a world in which these 2 different power levels could like exist and have fun in the same adventure.
Right. So you would have like the super souped up character going up against the demon, while the other character was dealing with the mook, or maybe the boss. Maybe the boss was not powerful at all.
Yeah.
And so the other characters could deal with the boss, while the superhero could deal with the boss's enforcer.
Yeah.
And so you could play. You had to play like that. And you know, in 5th edition, we get lulled into that CR calculators and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. You didn't have any of that for 2nd edition.
Yeah.
They had some guidelines.
We had experience points.
Right.
And experience. You know, so it took like 1,500 experience points to get to 1st level for your class.
Yeah.
Every class had a different
Yeah.
experience point progression, but.
I mean, but the books themselves must have had some sort of guideline
Yeah.
of what type of monsters they'd be okay to send against a certain level, right?
So if you battled the demon who was worth like 20,000 experience points, you would know you would level the guy like 4 levels or 5 levels or something ridiculous like
Which
that.
means it's not an appropriate.
Which means it's not an appropriate encounter, and so you would use smaller experience point total monsters that were within their level to kind of build them up.
Yeah.
Because if you had one monster that was worth their entire level of experience, it'd kill them.
Okay, so you'd use that as like the kind of guiding line. Okay, so that's 2nd edition then.
Yep. So 3rd edition was basically a simplification of 2nd edition, along with.
Okay. In what way simplified?
So in 2nd edition, to hit AC 0 with Taco required subtraction in order to figure out, in your armor classes we're in the negatives, and so
my head hurts already.
yeah. Yeah, and you got really good at arithmetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took a test to entrance to where I work.
Uh-huh.
They had do these arithmetic problems.
Uh-huh.
You have 7 minutes to do them. There's 100 of them.
Yeah.
And you have to do as many of them as you can.
Right.
And I finished the test with a minute left.
Uh-huh.
Because I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm positive because.
So you got your job as like as a software developer because you play D&D, man.
Right.
That's awesome.
It's probably more true than not. I mean, my entire life revolves around playing games. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I try to make video games. Video games make you learn how to code and
Yeah.
all sorts of things. Anyway,
Nice.
so third edition was an attempt at simplification, and also there was a concept in third edition where what players really like about playing Dungeons and Dragons is stuff, loot, you know.
Yep. Yeah.
And
so in first and second edition, loot wasn't a big thing.
it was actually optional. Like, a magic item was really a bonus to your character above and beyond anything that they could do. They didn't necessarily have to have magic items.
But in third edition, it became, let's give them a bunch of loot.
It actually became mandatory. It became
Okay.
part of the character's build, if you will. Like, if you wanted to have an appropriate armor class in third edition,
Yeah.
Pathfinder and all that,
Uh-huh.
you needed to have a +5 armor, +5 shield, and the ring, the...
And if you didn't have those things, you'd be behind the curve.
Oh, you would get clobbered.
Okay.
Because the monsters would have like +40 to hit, and if your armor class wasn't 50,
Right.
you know...
Yeah, they're always going to hit you.
Yeah, they're always
Now,
going to hit you.
So here's a question I've always had. I don't know the answer to this. 3.0 and 3.5. What was that all about? There was a 3.0 that came out, right?
Yeah.
But I've only ever heard people talk about 3.5, and I played 3.5, but I've never played 3.0.
I did play 3.0, I'm not really sure.
Okay.
As far as I can tell, there were some minor differences, but maybe it was 3.0 was published by TSR, and maybe Wizards of the Coast bought them and wanted to publish... No, Wizards of the Coast did 3.0.
Did they?
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. That's just a curiosity point.
Yeah.
Then. Something to look up online, I guess. So
Maybe that's when they fired Monty Cook, something.
So something that's interesting. I wonder if something happened in the company. You know, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sure that there's plenty of forums online that we could...
Probably people ranting about, crap, yeah. So we're on 3.5, and it simplified things, increased a lot of loot and stuff like that. Okay.
Yep. So they were really giving players what they thought they wanted, which was a ton of magic items.
Right. Well, why would they think that that's what players would want? When players have been playing it a certain way the whole time, did something else happen that influenced that decision? I wonder.
So I have a conspiracy theory, and since this is a video for the internet, my conspiracy theory is...
That's a good framing of it. Or it's going on the internet, so here's the theory.
So my theory is it's an advertising thing, right? So the one thing that I noticed about the books that they sell, you start off with the player's handbook, which is the basic thing. And then every single book that they publish after it is slightly more powerful than the book prior, right?
Yes. I noticed that in 5th edition even.
Yeah.
With Xanathar's coming out and the monsters in Volo's guide are more powerful than the ones in the monster manual. And I haven't gotten too much into using the Morning Cannon's monsters, but so it's just this gradual power creep, right?
Yep. And it's kind of like inflation, right?
Yeah.
So if you are letting your players build characters out of Volos, you have the Hexblade Warlock Paladins running around.
Those are powerful.
That's stupid. I
had
recommend
players
getting
doing the same thing in the same game because it's so powerful.
I highly recommend that you start pulling monsters out of the newer material.
Yeah.
because they're balanced with the idea that players will be making those characters.
Sure.
Same with Pathfinder, use later books to, the monsters are more powerful in those
Absolutely.
books.
I mean,
Same CR.
There are some gnolls in Volos that when I compare them to the gnolls on the Monster Manual, they have the same CR, but these gnolls, same armor class, these gnolls do twice as much damage. And I'm just like, how is it the same CR, dude? Really?
So, 3rd edition also had a Labyrinthian rule set,
Okay.
like 2nd edition, and there was just numerous books, and it just went on and on.
It says 3.5 was where they had all these prerequisites and stuff to get certain, like, what did they call those things? Archetypes or something?
Prestige classes.
Prestige classes, that's right. Yeah.
So in 1st edition, it's kind of a holdover from 1st and 2nd edition.
Okay.
So first and 2nd edition, there were prerequisites for damn near everything. Like, only humans could be paladins in 1st edition.
Yep.
2nd edition, monks, same thing.
Dual classing was a human
Yeah.
thing. Multi-classing was only non-humans
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah.
And and then they had like maximum levels you could attain, but I don't think anyone paid attention to that rule.
Right, no one lived that long. But if you're a dwarf, it doesn't go as high as if you're like a human, for
Right.
instance. Yeah.
Which I always thought was weird.
Really weird, because dwarves live longer.
And
And I
then-
think the justification is that your long life expectancy makes you less like ambitious or something. I don't know what it was, but
Yeah. I mean, if you read, how do you pronounce that? Mordecans?
Morning Canaans.
Mordenkainen's?
Yeah.
So the elf section
Yep.
kind of explains it.
Okay.
It's got a nice little history of like the elves and how their minds develop
Yeah.
over time, and how it explains why a 16-year-old elf is nowhere near as intelligent as a 16-year-old human.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It's just kind of cool backstory.
Yeah.
So, in 3rd edition, while 3rd edition was becoming popular, something else was becoming popular at the same time, and that was the internet. The internet was growing, and so from 1st edition, the only sort of internet that anyone had was the bulletin board systems, and if that. But 3rd edition, you started having the internet starting to play a role in 3rd edition's creation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Also, video games were starting to mimic 3rd edition rule sets.
Yep.
So video games there was 1st edition, I think there was 1st edition video games.
Yeah.
Definitely 2nd edition.
Definitely 2nd edition. Yeah, like Pools of Radiance
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
I still play them today.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 200 hours of Baldur's Gate that I still need to...
Dude, I have Baldur's Gate 1, I have Baldur's Gate 2, I have Icewind Dale 1 and 2, and like I'm always like looking at these things and I'm like, I want to play these games, and then I have all the the Elder Scrolls ones from the very beginning, like Daggerfall. I'm like all of these games, and I'm like I want to play all of these, but when am I going to ever have time to do that?
I'm on Baldur's Gate 2, probably halfway through the story.
Yeah.
Or I'm in the Thornball section, so it's
Nice.
like,
Yeah.
but I only play video games probably like 5 hours a week or
Okay. Yeah.
or if that.
Yeah.
And that's what I play because it's kind of like playing Dungeons and Dragons by yourself.
Yeah.
Which isn't really playing Dungeons and Dragons, but
It's as close as you're going to get in a video game.
it's the closest you're going to get by yourself.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Video games started mimicking Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And started becoming wildly popular. And at that time, EverQuest and Ultima Online and other video games were starting to come out. And eventually everybody knows of World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And which is still, I gather, popular today.
Ultima Online, that's kind of what started it all, the MMOs, right?
Yeah.
The whole gathering, yeah.
So, multi-user dungeons was also people playing Dungeons and Dragons online. So 4th edition came along. 4th edition was a turn on the table. So they thought these World of Warcraft was the game that everybody wanted to play. And so they created a game, a pen and paper version of World of Warcraft. But what I think Wizards of the Coast learned
Yeah.
was that's not what happens. People play World of Warcraft because, well, I played World of Warcraft because I had no one to play Dungeons and Dragons with,
Right.
right? And it was the closest I could get to it. Because if I had my choice, I would play Dungeons and Dragons any day of the week over any video game.
Right.
And I don't think I'm alone. I think everybody who wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons, and they would not play World of Warcraft. But Wizards of the Coast was trying to appeal to another audience.
Right.
So that was the video game player.
You had all the video games coming up in this massive audience for video games, right? And they were based off Dungeons and Dragons, right? And then they were like, we're going to do a new edition, and they're thinking, these video games are wildly popular, let's make our 4th edition similar to these video games.
Yep.
And that was just like a miscalculation on their part.
Yeah.
Because it was widely popular for D&D players because it's the closest you could get. It's not necessarily because you wanted to play that at the table.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So the correction is 5th edition. 5th edition is hey, 4th edition was a mistake, and what people really wanted to play was 1st edition Dungeons and Dragons. So they kind of wrapped it back around. They took away all the magic items that you would get in 3rd edition. I mean, in 3rd edition, your guy had 15 slots for different things that, you know.
To that point, like what I've noticed in 5th edition is I've had a couple TPKs, and their characters will start off with like one magic item as opposed to the several they had before they died. They do just fine. They don't need those magic items. Like the base core player character in 5th edition is plenty powerful all by himself. He doesn't need a magic item, right? And so you're right in that they became a lot more optional. You don't really need them.
Yeah, I mean, so when you're starting to overcome magic or resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, that the magic weapon does help.
It does get helpful. Yeah, a lot of characters have things, the spells or paladins have abilities that they can do that. But you're right, you do want some sort of base thing.
Actually, I handed out a whole bunch of magic weapons with no bonus.
Just to overcome that stuff.
Yeah, it's just special black steel drow made.
Nice.
Sort of magic sword. But it didn't really have any bonus other than the fact it was a magic sword.
So it overcame monster resistances, basically, yeah.
So 5th edition is really a correction, but it is still appealing to the newer generation.
Yeah.
The reason why it's appealing to the newer generation is, so in 1st edition, character death was a very real thing that happened quite frequently.
Right.
In 5th edition, it's actually terribly difficult to kill your character.
Very hard. In fact, at the higher levels, the only way to kill them is a TPK. Because if there's one survivor, usually there's more than one survivor, but if there's just one survivor, you know what I mean, they're going to take them back to town, they'll have enough money or something, you know, revivify, you know.
Is that 3rd level?
Yeah, I mean, even dropping to 0 is not a big deal, because they're going to get back up. Yeah.
And so, why is that? And so, again, back to my conspiracy theory, they are trying to appeal to a certain group, a certain demographic.
Right.
And specifically, one, they were trying to pull back in the old-timers by appealing back to that, but they're also appealing to the newer people by having this very death-light system, a very impermanence thing.
Yeah.
And that comes from basically all the media that we're subjected to growing up. Like the video games that we play. One common theme in video games is the ability to save and restore.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So what is revivify but a restore?
Checkpoint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. I remember the early video games, like when you couldn't save them, they were hard, man.
Oh, heck yeah.
Like the original like Atari ones,
Yeah.
those were hard. My dad loved those games. I was frustrated by them because you just die so quick. I played the game for 5 minutes and it's over. I can't get any further.
Yeah.
And he's like, the whole objective is to see how far you can go before you die, how many points you can get.
Right.
You know, and that's the whole first edition thing
Yeah.
that we were talking about before, where like the objective of the game, you're going to die, come with a sheet, a bunch of different characters, pre-rolled perhaps. You're going to die eventually. The whole objective is to see how far you can get before you die.
Yeah.
You know, and that's like the original Atari game. How far can you get before you die? How many points can you get?
Yep.
Back in the first edition.
Yeah, same with Nintendo. So all the games that I grew up with, so I've been eaten by Adventure Dragons from Atari, and I played Mega Man a million billion times, never beat the game.
Yeah.
The original Mega Man. It's just incredibly difficult, but if I would have beaten it, it would have been truly an accomplishment.
Yeah, there are so few games I've ever beaten, like the early games, right? Like, I think Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past was one of the rare ones where it's like, holy crap, I beat it!
But you could save and restore in that one infinitely.
Yeah.
So it became wildly popular, and it's probably like the forefather of like all save and restore games.
Okay.
But Mario Brothers was unforgiving.
Yep. Yeah.
Kid Icarus.
I don't know, I remember that one.
Yeah.
I remember this one with Altered Beast. Remember that
Oh
game?
yeah.
I mean, I never get past the first scene, like with the guy throwing the heads.
There was a
Never.
There was a game called Battletoads. It had this really awesome game. The first level, you can go in there, you can fight each other, fight everybody, and the second scene was this: you're riding on these jet skis, and it was really fun game, but you couldn't beat that level, and so I never got to see like the
rest of the game.
Yeah, the rest of the game.
Yeah. Yep.
So it was kind of disappointing, but I still finally remember that game because I would gradually get better at it. I'd get a little bit better at it. And there's been a little bit of a revitalization of hard games.
Right.
So they call it, roguelike, whatever. Dark Souls.
Okay.
Dark Souls appeals to a first edition like person because they punish you every single time you die.
Okay.
And severely.
So there's no save and restore.
There is no save and restore.
Okay.
You have to live with the consequences of your failures.
That's kind of like, I remember playing Diablo 2, and one of the options was death is permanent.
Oh, hardcore, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember this one time I got to fairly high levels, you know what I mean, and like, I was stupid, right, obviously, and somebody's like, hey, come out to this zone, I'm going to give you a free magic item. Or something, and I pittered around and waited, and eventually I went out there, and I come out, and sure enough, this guy's got like 3 Hydra things set up. As soon as I come through the portal, I get, I'm like, holy crap, what's going on? And then I'm dead, and he loots my body, and I lost all my progress.
Yep.
Another time, my friend got killed by lag. He went ahead into a bunch of monsters. He was like a tank type, and then the game lagged, and he's dead. And we were playing permanent mode, and it's like, you're done, and we never played that again together because he felt so let down of having died. You know what I mean?
By a glitch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That is horrible.
Yeah.
So, basically, what I'm coming to say is, your older players are used to playing games where there is no save, and they're not used to winning. Older Dungeons and Dragons reflects real life. A little bit more brutally, gritty.
Right.
It's grittier. It's So in real life, you can't save and restore. You have to deal with your consequences.
Yep.
You have a character sheet, which is you, that comes with many faults and many, and hopefully some good stuff.
Right.
And you learn to live with that character and see how far you can make it in life. Rise the corporate ladder, or those are the adventures of nowadays.
Yeah.
Make money, go on Wall Street.
Yeah.
The adventures of today are all about doing that. But people who are younger are grown up in a world where these video games are telling them that, hey, you succeeded. You get a magic star. You can't lose.
Right.
Occasionally we're going to set you back just a hair.
Right.
But there's a very strong impermanence to everything that they do, and I think it's a disservice to our young people
Right.
that this is happening.
Is that kind of along the lines of everybody gets a trophy type
Yeah.
mentality?
Yeah, it's everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets encouraged. We're not encouraged to compete.
Yeah.
You know, and here we are playing these games by ourselves. So when I'm sitting down and playing Final Fantasy VII, I want to have the most badass character who can do 9999 damage.
Yeah.
The penultimate of penultimate. So I sit there and grind away and eventually create this character that is perfect.
Yep.
And I'm basically teaching myself perfection.
Right.
Right? And so when I bring this back to Dungeons and Dragons, 5th edition with their point build system means that I can put my stats in a perfect configuration, the best configuration that I possibly can.
Right.
I can pick the class, the race, and all of its history and all, its entire path from point A to point B.
Yeah, so that everything meshes perfectly to get you this awesome build.
Yeah, and so we have this concept of a build, character build.
Yep.
We didn't really have character builds way back then. And you know, what's so special about character builds nowadays? Because most of them you can look up online. It's not really an accomplishment to have a great character build anymore.
Right. I have players that have these builds that are really powerful, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible they came up with it on their own. It's more likely they read it online somewhere and was like, wow, I'm doing that, and then they just copied it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I came up with the Hexblade Paladin all on my own. I should have just looked it up
I
online.
originated it.
I think I invented 0th level spells.
0 level spells?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm playing 2nd edition in chat rooms, IRQ, and I was like starting a new campaign, and I'm just like, hey, yeah, you know, 0th level spells. And the guy's like, what? I'm like, yeah, you know, the spells that nobody ever uses, that, you know, like read magic. You know, no one ever memorizes that spell, so I give it to you as a 0th level spell, and you can cast it level times per day.
Right.
I swear to God, I invented it.
Wow,
And
that's
then
amazing.
that kind of picked up, and then next thing you know, I'm reading 3rd edition and 0th level spells. I'm like,
It's still, but that's like copyright infringement or something at that point, right? Did you take that up with Wizards? I mean,
you know, it was TSR at the time.
TSR, okay.
Oh God, and if I could have had a chance to fight TSR,
yeah.
oh man, I would have, because you know they were copyright. Their copyright lawyers would like kidnap people in the middle of the night and beat them.
Would they really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Might be an internet conspiracy theory, but I'm pretty sure about this one.
I do think I was reading somewhere or something that like Wizards is a lot more lenient on people using their stuff because they know it's promoting their own game and getting fans.
Yeah.
Whereas TSR I think was like, that's what I heard, was much more strict about like, don't do any of our like for instance like right now if I were to take like something that Wizards made, let's say I take their D&D logo, okay, and I put it on my thumbnail or something, right? I may or may not have done that, right? If I do that, if they see it, chances are they're going to be like, dude's making D&D videos on YouTube, it's got our logo there, but you know what? People are watching his videos and they want to play D&D. He's driving business to us. Why am I going to, you know, jump on him?
Yeah,
You
so you know, with this whole thing, if you actually start making a profit, they're going to want 50%. That's in order to use the little logo.
Okay, so I'm going to go back through and take that logo off my videos. All right, good, cool. I'll write that down.
But they have a license agreement. You can use everything Dungeons and Dragons, but you just pay heavy royalties. Now you can use their open license stuff, and then
they actually have a fan art policy, and that allows you to use a lot of this stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so you are min-maxing your character. You're leveling him up, making him super perfect. And so you get this solid perfectionist ideal that carries over into 5th edition.
Yep.
You've played 1,000 video games. This is just another one of those video games where you get to play the guy with the oversized sword and stomp monsters to death with a single hit.
Yeah.
That's what you've gotten used to, and that's what a young player kind of, I don't know if they know it, but they kind of expect. They expect to win.
It's their expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
The older player, it's interesting. The older player comes in expecting to lose eventually.
Right.
The younger player expects not to ever die.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like he's like, yeah, I want to run on the narrow beam over the top of the dragon and kick him in the head.
And the DM's thinking, you're dead.
Okay, roll an acrobatics check and go toe to toe with the monster, the dragon in hand-to-hand combat, unarmed combat.
Gulp.
Yeah. But it depends on the dungeon master.
Yeah.
If you have a younger dungeon master, he might be totally obliged to run that kind of game.
Yeah.
Game of superheroes.
Yeah.
I like to call 5th edition a game of superheroes because you can have your Captain America character who is running around with his big shield and he can take 1,000 hits.
Right.
And he's never really going to die.
It's called a paladin.
Yeah. Actually, more like a druid.
Druid? Oh yeah, druid. Yeah.
Transform. I transform again.
Well, I think it's at level 17 that you have unlimited transformations, and you can't die. Like, you almost can't die. It's hard to die.
Challenge accepted. Are you ready? You roll up a 17th level druid, and I will try to kill him.
Yeah. Oh, that is interesting. So what if the DM rolls up a 7th level druid, and he's just shape-shifting every time?
Yeah, that's painful. I don't know. At 17th level, you probably get some things that prevent that. And then I don't know if druids can you dispel that? Or is there anything you can do about that?
I don't know. I don't know offhand. Yeah.
There used to be spells like moon something, which would force people to transform or prevent them from transforming.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if those still exist.
Yeah, we're going into the weeds though on this one. But,
Heck yeah.
So video games, 5th edition, expectations and stuff. Players expect not to die, to just kind of live forever.
Yeah, and so much to my horror, when I started playing Dungeons and Dragons, I got together a bunch of people that I thought were very into similar materials as I was. We play the same video games, we read the same books. So let's play Dungeons and Dragons. Sit down.
When was this?
This is 15 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm 25. They're 18.
Yep.
And what I hadn't realized is I'm on the cusp between these two generations.
Yeah.
And so when I started playing the game, they were very confused by my style. My style,
because they were dying a lot.
Yeah, they were dying. They were like, how, everything I do ends up with me dying. And I was like, it's because you do the same thing every single time.
Just break the door down and go in. What do you think's going to happen?
You see a fountain, do you drink from it? If you say yes every single time, and your character dies every single time,
right?
Then stop drinking from the fountain.
Yeah. It's the same dungeon, dude. We've run this 5 times now. Stop drinking from the fountain.
Yeah, but I would have made my savings throw that time.
But you... Okay,
yeah.
That'd be metagaming. I'm just doing what my character would do. It's like, whatever, dude.
So, yeah, and there was a large discrepancy between my game and what they were expecting. They wanted to be superheroes.
Yeah.
They were used to playing superheroes, and I was not delivering a game of superheroes.
Right.
I was delivering a 1st edition game because I had played with people that were older than me.
So you had these expectations of this deadly thing. They were like superheroes, and the result. I mean, did they start to get upset because things weren't panning out the way they thought it would be?
Yeah. So that game unraveled. So I put together this nice little dungeon that had basically a gauntlet of traps and monsters and things like that, and they died.
Yeah.
And then they died again, and then they died again.
Same dungeon.
And they basically just stopped playing. And was I doing something wrong? As far as I could tell, no.
Yeah.
Because I had run, I myself had played this almost exact same dungeon some years prior with an older group, and this is exactly the thing that we played. And I could think through all of these Dungeon Master screw jobs as they saw them, as Dungeon Master challenges
Yeah.
that have solutions. They definitely have solutions.
You got to think about them. You got to approach it more cautiously, and not just with the expectation that, whatever, we're gonna win.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You know, when you encounter a group of a large group of lizard men, right? Huge group of lizard men. Say there's like 12 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and they're in a big room. You don't just charge right into the lizard men and start chopping them up.
Right.
What you do is you try to lure them back your way, maybe booby trap the halls, get some doors, things, try to flank them.
Something, yeah.
You gotta
collapse the roof or something.
Yeah, use the dungeon against them, because there's always stuff in the dungeon that you can use against them.
Right.
And that's what I was used to playing.
Yeah.
I was used to engaging in a fight and then running away. And just to, spring back at the last second and kill the monster.
Yeah.
That's what I was used to. And
so just thinking outside the box, using more advanced tactics and stuff, not just running in and thinking that we're just going to go toe to toe. And I wonder if that's an assumption too. So there might be an assumption by certain players, and this might be generational, I don't know, that if the DM put it in the game, it means that I can win it, right? Like, because sometimes there are things DMs put in the game that are not designed to be winnable necessarily.
You could.
Right? So...
And so, we try to teach the players to, grow and learn.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm working again. You're working against all of these video games and all of this TV and media that is... kind of has them rooted in place, because they will fall back to it. They'll just keep falling back to it and forget the lesson.
Yeah.
Also, one interesting thing about first edition and second edition, the rules weren't very clear. Third edition did a good job about clearing up the rules.
Yeah.
And
a little too clear. There's like the labyrinth you refer to.
Yeah.
Like there's so many of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you had to look to the dungeon master to adjudicate, to decide, well, in this particular instance, you can run up the dragon's back, right? Because there weren't a rule set for running on dragons. Well, 5th edition actually has rules in the Dungeon Master's Guide in the back, for running on giant monsters.
Right, if it's like 3 or 4, I think 3 size categories larger, there's like, there's a name for it, but I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah.
I'm just like, wow, there's actual rules for this.
Yep.
Not to badmouth 5th edition, but 3rd edition had way more rules. And Pathfinder had even more.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about, how does this thing play out, we're always, when you're playing the 3rd edition game, you're always going through the rules and trying to do that, not leaving it to the Dungeon Master to adjudicate these things.
Right.
For the benefit of the story, and sometimes for the benefit of the players, and benefit of the overall success of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So they took away a lot of power from the Dungeon Master in 3rd edition.
Right.
5th edition, they gave some of it back.
Yeah. And that kind of assumes too that like the dungeon master is going to use those powers for the benefit of the game. Like you were talking about for the benefit of the story, for the benefit of the players, right? Because like if the dungeon master wants to kill his players, he can do that at any moment he wants to, right?
Or what fun.
Right. So I kind of always have had in my mind that one of the things the dungeon master does is he curates the game for his players, right? So it's not just an objective, this is the monster, these are the rules, and we're just rolling dice and see how it happens, you know what I mean? But there's more of a curation process there where you're kind of creating a game experience for them, you know what I mean? And so this is a little bit against some people who would just want to, create everything and then just run it, let it as the die falls, But I think that it's possible that those folks, it could just be because that's what the game wanted. No. So I think when my memory card ran out, we were in the middle of talking about something or other. What were we talking about? We left off mid-train conversation on something or other.
So we were talking about 3rd edition, and we were talking about 3rd edition, one of the aspects of it, which was taking the power away from the Dungeon Master.
Yes.
So the inconsistency of 1st edition and 2nd edition.
Yeah.
That was resolved by adding in a whole ton of rules in the
Right.
3rd edition. And basically, it kind of pinned the Dungeon Master to the spot so that he couldn't wing certain sections. If there were already rules for how a chase is supposed to be done, he couldn't just
Do what I wanted to.
yeah,
Yeah.
just by like throwing a few dice or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that was the expectation on the part of the players that the DM would follow the rules as they were written in the book then.
yeah, and really the Dungeon Master was kind of chained, constrained by
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Right.
But thankfully, 5th edition lightened it up a lot. It says basically here's a skill. Use the skill for all the things that you think that skill can be used for.
I think it gives some examples and stuff. You
Yeah,
know,
it does, but it
there's a
doesn't-
lot of like vagueness around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It lays it out. The advantage, disadvantage thing, there's tons of vagueness around that.
Oh,
They
yeah.
intentionally did that.
I love advantage disadvantage. It's so awesome because it can be anything, right? Like, you know, you're carrying a table on your back. That's disadvantage on your deck save, dude.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. What do you want me to do? You know,
But
but
that-
it makes it easy too because you're not like one of the things in 3.5. You know, you're counting up what a +2 because of this and a -4 because of that, and
Yep.
then I have cover as well. So that's what's cover again? +2. Whatever, you know what I mean? You're doing all this math to figure out a bonus or whatever. you
Yeah,
know?
it's that gets really cool.
And disadvantage is so like elegant and simple. You know what I mean?
You wanna stop a 3.5 game? Cast the 9th level spells, the super dispel, like disjunction.
Uh-huh.
It's like Mordenkainen's disjunction.
Yeah, Mordenkainen's disjunction.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and you will stop the game dead.
Why is that?
Because you now have to recalculate all of your bonuses on all of your magic items because you just dispelled every magic item in a certain radius. And you now...
Oh, jeez, dude.
Yeah, and you have to...
Yeah.
I think they get a saving throw or something like that. So some of them make it, some of them don't, and next thing you know, your character is all horked up.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because like in my game last weekend, one of the characters lost all his memories, and his charisma and intelligence both went to 5, and so he had to recalculate a bunch of his like things that relied upon all of this stuff. You know what I mean? And then it turned out he's no longer proficient in his armor, right? And so he can't cast spells while he's in it. You know what I mean? I think he might have been a paladin or something. You know, and now he has disadvantage on attacks because he's wearing armor he's not proficient in. And this was a monster ability, you know, this frog like Ugoloth that steals memories. Okay, this is from I think it's from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, or Tome of Foes. And so this happened to him, right? And we literally had to pause the game for a few minutes, 5 minutes or something, to figure out all of the effects it would have on it for one character. And you know, it wasn't affecting its magic items, just some stats and stuff. You know what I mean? Now I can imagine, right? All of the Mordenkainen's disjunction, right?
Yeah, so because 3rd edition required you to have every magical item to bolster your character, you had magic items to bolster your strength, magic items to bolster all your stats.
Because it depends on that. You have that's part of your
you
character
have to have,
build.
You have to have that, you know. You know, you have your armor class, you have your... It just was everything. You basically had to recalculate your whole character when that spell went off. That would be an example of one spell taking 2 game sessions to resolve.
That's like as a DM, you almost just want to like tell people, you know, don't use that spell. You know,
Right.
That's not we're not using that here.
Yeah.
That's an example. I think this is a whole other topic, but like logistics at the game table. There are some things that sound great, I think, in forums or on paper, right? But logistically, it's like, no, we're not doing that. Summons, right? Summons are a thing that, like, I'll read forums and stuff, maybe Reddit or something, and somebody's like, well, you know, by the rules as a necromancer, I can end up with like 32 zombies or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'm thinking, that sounds great and epic and stuff, but how would that play out at the table? I'll tell you how this would play out at the table. The one player with 32 zombies feels awesome, and he spends a half an hour resolving the actions of all of his 32 zombies. All the other players are on their phones, totally bored, and the dungeon master is like, how the hell am I going to fix this?
Fireball.
Fireball. but you see what I'm saying. So that's like the game logistics. Something might sound cool. That spell Mordecai's Junction sounds awesome.
Yep.
Because you're gonna like basically nerf all of the monsters.
Devastate them. Yeah.
Devastate them. But then you're gonna spend like an hour figuring out what their stats all become. You know what I mean? Or in the case of like summons, you're now all of your combat rounds take an hour to resolve because of the summons. You know what I mean? It's those types of things where
even
it's just like,
even with calculators or pre-generated dice rolls for your summons,
Right.
you know, it's still very painful to watch those summons roll.
Mm-hmm.
And third edition was horrible about this because you could every round the player could summon 5 monsters, up to 5 monsters or something like that. And
is it like a necromancer or something?
no, this is just the summoner.
Oh, okay, summoner. Okay.
Yeah, and so first round 5 monsters, second round 5 more monsters.
Uh-huh.
You know, and it would just start steamrolling the whole encounter.
It's funny because like when I started playing, like when I played in Kyle's group just a little bit, right?
Yeah.
The first thing you guys told me off the bat was if you're a summoner, you get 1 summon. That's it.
Yeah.
And this must be why, right?
It's exactly why, because
Yeah.
we actually had an instance where the game was just screeching to a halt.
Yep.
Because one person was just rolling dice just forever. And
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it was just painful.
Right.
So, back to the generational differences.
Yeah.
So, third edition was complex, with the idea that it would still allow people to create these great characters by doing that. But the internet came out and allowed us to have character builds, and third edition kind of fell apart because you could just look up your perfect build and create your perfect character.
Yeah. People would basically spend their time like in a big think tank trying to figure out like the best build.
Yeah, I would spend about 2 weeks to build a character for third edition because it would be perfectly crafted.
Right.
The best character that I possibly can. You know, of course I challenged myself. I was like, well, what would be the best barbarian gnome that I could possibly make?
Yeah.
You know, you're already handicapping yourself something fierce by taking a -2 strength creature and trying to make him a strength-based fighter.
Right. Yeah.
But you know, you could really craft it. And when you spend 2 weeks, building your character,
Yep.
you get attached.
Yeah.
And if that character dies and you can't bring him back,
Yeah.
you are pissed.
Yep.
Because you just wasted 2 weeks. Yeah, I know. Spending 2 weeks building a Dungeons & Dragons character probably it's not a reasonable person probably wouldn't do that.
We've all done that though.
Yeah.
I think we've all done that, right?
Yeah. So you're super attached to your character, which is another generational difference in the games.
Yeah.
It incentivizes you to get super attached to your character, and with your superhero character,
Yeah.
who you're not expecting to die,
Right,
and you're
right.
already super attached to it, so if you do end up with character death,
Yeah.
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Whereas in
Because you just lost 2 weeks of work outside the game.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you could just make the same character again, but in first edition, you roll the dice to determine your stats.
Yeah.
You're already in a suboptimal location.
So you're already detached a little bit. You already don't really care if he dies.
You're like, well, I could have rolled better than that.
If he dies, I'll just maybe get a better shot at better stats.
Yeah. I get that thing, and I feel like the randomness of this idea of chance is built in from first edition. Everything in first edition resulted down to a game of chance, and you were never guaranteed to succeed.
Right.
Whereas in third edition and in higher editions, you actually can be guaranteed to succeed on things.
Right.
Advantage is a nice way to increase that chance of succeeding.
Yeah.
So the later editions become less a game of chance than the previous editions.
Right.
Which is an important thing to note.
Yeah.
So when a player, let me finish my thought on the character who that you rolled the stats for.
Yeah.
When he dies, you get a chance to. We said we get a chance to roll another character, and player death isn't that permanent player death isn't that big of a deal. And after you've lost 100 characters, because you've been playing this way for a while.
Yeah.
you get used to the idea. You're totally cool with it,
Right.
and you've kind of
Yep.
come to expect
Yeah.
this. And so your old timer will be incredibly bored if his character is not being challenged to the point where he almost dies every single time he tries to do something.
That's interesting. I have one player that comes to mind that always is just like, TPK baby, let's go. He does it. He welcomes it. It's
Yeah.
like he wants to die.
Right. Well, he will deliver the challenge.
Yeah.
And so the old timers, when they've been playing this game for so long, they have that character who's suboptimal,
Yeah.
but has pulled off just the most miraculous feat
Yeah.
that there's no reason he could have done that.
Yeah. It's more rewarding that way.
Yeah.
Because you have a crap character who just did something awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I once rolled 5 critical hits in a row
Uh-huh.
on while battling the Spider Queen Wolf. And it wasn't. We were dead. We were totally dead. There was no.
We got us, yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a goddess
Uh-huh.
or goddess avatar.
Okay.
But
yeah.
we were dead. We were absolutely dead. And all of a sudden, my suboptimal character just comes in and just hit, crit,
Right.
crit, and kills her.
Yeah.
I mean, he got poisoned. He died. But
You killed her first. While you were on the ground being poisoned, you saw her dead.
yeah,
That's your last sight.
yeah. I was like, that was probably one of the coolest, most memorable scenes.
Yeah.
Because I persevered in
Uh-huh.
just unreasonable circumstances,
Right,
and
yeah.
and won.
That's cool. You know, as you're talking about this, you are convincing me more and more that this idea of like, when I do get around to running Curse of Strahd, like having my players roll, it'll probably be 46 drop the lowest, but we'll keep it in order, right? And then based upon what they get in order, like having to choose their race and class and stuff, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Just to make it more challenging.
But be careful. Be careful, because if you're working with people that are younger, on the used to having that perfect character,
Yeah.
that they will be at odds with you, right? You want them to be disattached from your character, but they want to be attached to their character,
Right.
right? They want it to be perfect, and they want it, and they in later editions they want certainty.
Yeah.
They want to know that they will succeed. Ergo, Hexblade Paladins galore.
Right. Keep going back to that. But I think you're right. That comes back to, like, I don't know if it was this video or the last one, but we talked about like having that session 0 and talking and setting expectations about like the type of game we're running and all that, and then continuing to reinforce that. You know, like, hey guys, remember, this is a super deadly game.
Right.
Get your big boy pants on.
Yep.
You know.
And you have to reinforce it after the thing. I think that our experience with that when we played Ravenloft,
Yeah.
and we got our asses handed to us.
Recession.
If we were warned ahead of time,
Yeah.
if we just sat down, hey guys, wipe those smiles off your face. We're gonna do the dark and dirty, gritty
Yeah.
death fest here. If you survive today, you will be lucky.
Yeah.
Sort of just set the expectations at every meeting.
Right.
Because honestly, we forgot. We
Yeah.
forgot
Yeah.
because we forgot we were playing Curse of Strahd with a guy who wanted to run first edition.
Curse
like,
Strahd. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And we
that
forgot.
Style. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And that killed us.
Yeah.
And we felt it was unfair. But in reality, our expectations just weren't in the same place as our dungeon
He
master.
was running a different game than we were playing, basically.
Exactly.
And we got upset because of that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he got upset too.
Yeah. Oh,
he probably felt like you weren't taking my game seriously or something.
Absolutely. So total
Alignment,
expectation.
yeah.
Misalignment of expectation. We were on
Yeah.
different wavelengths.
Right.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
So we were playing the superhero game. We were playing Nigh Indestructible. Hey, Dungeon Master, I dare you to kill my character.
It didn't work.
And when you dare a old timer
Yeah.
to kill your character,
Yeah.
it's like psh,
He's gonna kill your character.
he might even just say you're struck by lightning.
Right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like tempting fate in a fantasy realm
Yeah.
is a well-known way to get your characters killed.
Right, and just a little quick note for the viewers. So we're talking about, this conversation kind of is built upon like the previous video we did, where we talked about like, what the hell did we talk about? Player morale and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so we talked a lot about this game and stuff like that, but this is kind of like a, you know, a continuation of that. But yeah, we were totally playing a different game than the Dungeon Master was.
Yep.
He was trying to do an old school first edition like type game, and we're thinking superheroes, and we're being a little slapsticky comedy about it, and he's just like, I'll slap you around, all right.
Yeah, yeah. And we paid, and
Yeah.
we got upset, and it was our, you know, it was our own. Well, I mean,
I think it's
setting the expectations is important.
Yeah.
Communicating with your players is important.
Right.
And if you're trying to run an old school game with not old school people, know this. Remind them.
Right.
You know, hey guys, we're not playing Final Fantasy VII here. We are playing Dungeons and Dragons. Think Dark Souls. Get them into where you're at and constantly remind them, because
Right.
you're having to work against all of the media that they have consumed since they were children.
Yeah.
And a lot of that media is very nerf, like very softball and very
Right. Participation trophies and special snowflakes and stuff like that. Yeah.
right. Everybody wins. You get a car. You get a car.
Which sucks because like when you grow up learning that everybody wins, and then you go into like the real world and you find out that everybody doesn't win, and I didn't get that job. Why am I working here? You know, but
We don't win.
all right. Well,
I won.
I don't want to deal with this right now, man. Suck it up. Put your big boy pants on.
No. All right. So that basically kind of outlines like most of the issues. But if we were to talk about how do you mix these groups together and how do you keep them, keep them from having your gaming group implode,
Right. Yep.
because you have these different expectations.
Yeah.
Just goes back to talking to your players, reminding your players what game we're playing today.
Yeah.
Always today, every single time.
Right.
Over and over, repeat it,
Yeah.
repeat it. And if you are playing a particularly gritty game and people are laughing and joking and stuff, I'm not saying that you should shut those players down, make them feel awful, but talk to them off to the side after the game, before the game, and being like, all right, so you guys we were in a really dark part of the dungeon. We were reaching a climax, and you guys were making fart jokes. Right.
Yeah.
You could be the dungeon master. You could make them pay for that.
Yeah.
By killing their characters, because
Yeah.
you say, well, the monsters were hearing you making fart jokes, and have the monsters come and gang up on you. And
Well, it's
stalk you to
interesting.
death.
I think it's to some extent though. Like I think what I do, if I'm a player or something, is that if the adventure and the battles and everything are really hard and grueling and stuff, though that bantering and fart jokes and stuff out of character, that's in a way to relieve that tension and relax a little bit, so that I can then delve back into that hardcore game. So I think that's something for dungeon masters, I think, to realize too. Is just because your players are joking and laughing and having a good time, it doesn't mean they're disrespecting your game or not taking it seriously. They might just need some levity to help balance the hardcore dungeon you're running.
That is an excellent point. I would counter that with saying that keep it in the game. So if you want to crack a joke, if you're running an elf, crack a dwarf joke. Crack jokes in game. Crack jokes in context.
Right.
Because you're still playing the game. If the game is too intense for you, by all means, go to the bathroom, get a drink, but if you kept the characters in character and crack jokes within your character, that can be really funny and add to a lot of levity.
Yeah.
But not destroying the ambiance that the dungeon master is trying to create.
Right.
Grim jokes can be really funny.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So
But there's got to be a balance there because like people play D&D to have fun and stuff,
Sure.
right? And I think different people have different ideas of what's fun and different approaches to that. But if I were at a game where like we're playing a really grim, dark game, right? And like the expectation is I'm not going to break that atmosphere and I'm just going to be like really serious and grim and stuff. I don't know if I'd be having fun. You know what I mean? Like you see what I'm saying? I might love the combat in the game itself, but I would want to be able to relax and make some sort of joke out of character,
So-
you know, and not get pounced on. You know what I'm saying?
why everybody plays Dungeons and Dragons? They all have different reasons. Personally, for me, playing Dungeons and Dragons is because I can't drink, right?
Okay.
And I need to laugh, right? And so I find Dungeons and Dragons is a great replacement for going to the bar
Yeah.
and acting silly and doing stuff like that.
Right.
So I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
The context of wanting to laugh. The reason why I play is so that I can laugh. I would not be a good fit for a dark game because
Yeah.
I am. I just want to laugh.
You show up to laugh, right?
But
yeah.
I think that I might have the wit, or I think I'd be capable of cracking jokes in the context of the game, and use the grim humor by staying in character. Because I don't want to like berate people for laughing and having a good time.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is the game is at its height, at its best, when everybody is focused
Mm-hmm.
and all on the same page, paying attention, trying to think of their next act,
Yeah.
and in a sort of machine-like synchronicity.
Yeah.
And by stepping out of character, and having those out-of-character moments, we're kind of putting a damper on that machine.
Yeah.
And lessening the game to a degree.
Right.
Yes, it has to happen. Out of character has to happen.
Yeah.
Hey, Dungeon Master, I don't really understand what this spell means. Your character didn't just say that.
Sure.
Of course, you need clarification.
Yeah.
I took 7 hit points. Yeah, that's not actually. You do need to speak out of character.
Yeah. So I think that there's a balance to it, right? Like I think what you're saying is like, you know, for the most part, and I get the whole thing about like staying focused on the game, right? Because if half of your D&D session is like bullcrapping about other stuff that has nothing to do with the game, like that doesn't belong, not for half of the game,
Right.
Right? Once like there might be some friendly banter, but once the DM's like, all right, guys, we're playing D&D, it's D&D time,
Yep.
right? And now at least that's how I do my groups. I mean,
Yep, me
that's
too.
how I've always done it. It's like it's D&D time. We're not bullcrapping about like, you know, what happened on like, I don't know, some movie you're watching or some crap. We're not talking about the last Spider-Man movie, right? We're playing D&D now, right? And it's all hands on deck. We're focused on this game.
And so if you're really intent on bringing up that Spider-Man reference,
Yeah.
you can bring it up in game. Yes, Spider-Man does not exist in your Dungeons and Dragons world, but a man who walks on walls and
Yeah.
possibly slings webs could be, you know, some sort of weird drow.
Sure. Yeah.
Or you could make some reference in that way, and you could still crack your joke, but it's in the context of the game.
Yeah.
And so you're still focused on relaying the game.
Yeah.
I,
So
you
when
know,
we were doing our slapstick stuff in Ravenloft, like it was my paladin interacting with your gnome,
Correct.
right? And we were making jokes in character, right?
which by the way was an elf.
That was a gnome.
That's what you kept saying.
Oh, I kept
Yes.
calling him a gnome, but he was an elf. I still remember. See, I still remember him being a gnome,
Yeah.
and I'm calling him a gnome right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm gonna start and stop. That's freaking awesome. You're a gnome. It was a gnome, dude. I'm telling you. You don't even remember your own character. It was a gnome.
Well, you're most likely right, because I almost exclusively play gnomes.
Yeah. In this case, it wasn't.
It was not. It was an elf.
It was a very short elf.
Yeah, well, short-lived elf.
But see, no. So let's analyze that. So we were like this is totally off topic. This is a little off topic though from what we were talking about. But in that situation, like we were making fun in character.
Yep.
We were joking around, right? You were like convincing me to let you ride on my shield and stuff, and we were just doing this slapsticky stuff. But it was all in character.
Yeah, it was.
Like, our characters were the ones interacting in game.
Right.
Right. But in the context of a super grim fantasy world, right?
We were not role playing our characters.
Okay. You're right, because if we were literally in this world that we don't know and all this horrible stuff is going on, we would not be laughing and joking about it. We
Yeah,
would
it
be
would be not
you're
like
right.
my character's sole purpose was to get a ride on your guys' shield. That does not happen.
No, you're right. That's a very good point. That was bad role playing probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It was fun though.
Oh, it was hilarious.
It's fun. But so that goes back to the generational differences, possibly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like so I'm a little younger than you, I think. So I'm technically a Gen X person, right? So
I'm technically Gen X.
are you? So I was born in 1980.
So
That's like the cusp,
I
right?
was born in the year of Star Wars, so 77.
77. Okay, so we're both probably on the cusp,
Yeah.
right? So, but for me, like I don't mind that slapsticky stuff. You know what I mean? As long as we're still, to me, my players do that type of thing.
Yeah.
I still see them as taking the game seriously, and we're still playing the game.
And so we're
you know?
playing. So if we're playing a high fantasy game,
Yeah.
shield rides and all that sort of crap.
Yeah.
I mean, if you read the Dungeons and Dragons books, you see the antics
Sure.
of the characters within the books, and that's completely expected.
Yeah.
But if you were to read the Ravenloft books, I don't think you would see those antics.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And so we were on a different page than our Dungeon Master. and-
Right. He was running first level, first edition. We were running like 5th or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. The mentality at least.
Right.
Generational. Yeah. Yeah.
So dealing with it, communication, mixing people of different age groups into the same party, you're gonna have problems. You're gonna have conflicts,
Right.
and that is, and it's gonna require you to take those players aside and explain to them these generational differences.
Yeah.
For these things. So if you have an old timer, you're playing a superheroes campaign, you have to explain to them that, hey, your guy is really, really, really powerful, and he isn't likely to die
Yeah.
anytime soon. So you can do some action role playing. Here's an opportunity for doing this and that.
Right.
Whereas
Don't be so cautious. Don't worry so much about
Yeah.
every little thing.
yeah, you don't have to inspect the door jamb,
Yeah.
the door, the hinges.
Just kick it down. If it's trapped, you're not gonna die. Just whatever.
Yeah, you're gonna get set back a little bit. And not to mention, so I got a thing about traps. So traps where you just have a door and you make a perception check and it stabs you in the eye.
Yeah.
That's a dumb trap.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Traps
Yep.
need to be action. They have to be built like Rube Goldberg machines all the time. They always have to be active and winding up. Those are the best kind of traps. The trap where, you stepped on the plate, which starts the action, but the action is just getting started. You hear the sounds of mechanisms winding up, spinning up. You see the walls lowering slowly.
Yeah.
You see the arrowheads coming
The
out.
ceiling is so we're talking Temple of Doom basically.
Yeah,
Indiana Jones
exactly.
Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did Steven Spielberg have Harrison Ford step on a trap and pokes him in the eye?
And he's dead.
And he's
No. I saw those and it was the trailing shot. One landed here, one went down here. So I think
yeah, you're good. You made your savings, sir.
my dexterity is
But yeah, they don't do it like that.
Yeah.
They literally.
Right.
Why is it always that we have our traps in our dungeons that are these crappy fail a perception check, get stabbed in the eye?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You know.
It's funny. I totally agree with you. The whole mechanic of just like walking through the dungeon and then everybody makes saves and then if you succeed, maybe it's not that bad. If you fail, something bad happens to you. there's nothing interesting about that.
No.
It's just, it really is a gotcha. It's a DM gotcha, or an adventure gotcha.
It's slap.
Yeah, I mean, I did a whole video on like ways to make your traps better, you know, because I agree with you that like that is a crappy way to implement a trap, and you're taking it to a next level, and you're saying make the trap an encounter, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you might that plate goes off, and you might have them roll initiative even to keep track of how this is all going down.
Yeah.
As things are lowering, as the walls are coming, as spikes are slowly coming out. It's kind of like the Star Wars thing in the
trash
episode, the trash compactor, exactly.
Yeah.
Where that's an action trap, right?
Yeah.
Where they're actually trying to solve it as it's getting worse and worse, right? And that makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
Now,
So you got the skill challenges. So you need to disarm the trap before it goes off.
Yeah.
Now you have a reason to be hasty about it.
right, exactly, yeah. And that's the cool way to do it. Now the thing though is, of course, that it takes a lot more preparation and thinking on the end of the dungeon master to make those sorts of things, right? I mean,
I don't know.
no, you don't think so? The way I'm thinking it, so if I just say, look, there's a trap here, there's a tripwire, and it shoots out spikes at you, and you get damaged, you know what I mean? That's fairly simple to make that.
Slow it down.
So you hit a tripwire, you hear some machines going off, there's some grinding, what the heck's going on? They look around and stuff, and then you see something coming out of the walls, they're kind of swinging this way, what the heck are they doing, right?
Like turrets.
Like,
something.
okay, so the exact same trap,
Yep.
you just break it down into its components.
Yeah, just slow it down.
Okay.
Slow it down. Make it take 2 rounds, 3 rounds.
I think I think about it.
Roll a d4.
Yeah, okay.
Just slow it down. I mean, pit trap. Simplest pit trap. You're walking across the floor.
Uh-huh.
All of a sudden, some of the pieces of the floor start dropping down around you.
Right.
Oh man, the floor's giving out.
But you see pieces all over the place dropping.
Yeah.
So you don't know where the safe spot is.
Yeah, you don't know where, and so you have to walk in the name of Jehovah to get across this
Yeah.
thing. And it doesn't start with I, right? No, it starts with I. It doesn't start with J.
Okay.
So, it's actually easier than you think.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense. That's
just,
cool.
Just slow it down.
Yeah.
Take that. It's to make it action oriented.
Yeah.
You just make it slower.
Right. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Did that tie in at all to our generational differences?
Absolutely not.
But it was good stuff, right?
It is good stuff.
Yeah.
So there is an interesting corollary. There is an interesting lead-in to generational difference. In first edition, when you did deal with objects and stuff like that,
Yeah.
there were no pre-canned rules that you had to deal with. There were no, perception check. Perception check was an invention of 3rd edition.
Yeah.
You would investigate things by poking at them, touching them, and doing particular actions. If you flipped an object over, you would see the sticker on the other side. If you opened the drawer all the way out, you would know that there was something in it.
Yeah.
And so, the first edition guy was very detail-oriented in his investigations of things, and it led to a lot of interesting things to occur.
Right.
I don't know if it was what I was a while ago. I was playing Shadowrun, and in Shadowrun, there's that very close attention to detail about things because
Yeah.
we're not using a grid system,
Mm-hmm.
and so I have to spell out what they're seeing, what they're interacting with, and they can't just make assumptions. Theater of the mind,
Yeah.
sort of style.
Right. Yeah. That reminded me, what we just said, reminded me of, there's a 5th edition module in Tales from the Yawning Portal called Temple of Malakand or something like that. I forget what the heck, how to pronounce that. But I read through this module, and the one thing that overwhelmingly struck me, besides the fact that there's almost no combat, and the combat that there is so easy, it's pathetic, it's mostly an exploration type adventure, and each room, I crap you not, the description of all the different things in the room take up almost an entire page of the module, and I'm thinking to myself, as a dungeon master, how do I even run that room? Because I can't memorize all of that stuff, and I can't constantly refer to the text as they're poking each thing, not the way it's written, You know what I mean? So I read through that and I was like, I can't run this because there's just too much stuff here. But I think that reminded me of what you were just saying, how in first edition they would interact so much with things and find all these things and discover all these things. So it almost seemed like, you know, that module, and it might have come from a first edition thing, I don't know. But
The Yachting Portal, they're all first edition.
are they all from first edition?
Yeah, so they're reprints.
Some of them are. I know some of them are like from third edition and stuff. Like some of the Citadel. There are definitely some of them. There are definitely some of them that weren't.
So-
I know a lot of them were.
Oh,
For sure,
Okay, okay. I was thinking that they were all first edition, and they were all first edition that have kind of graduated with the editions. So like Ravenloft, right? We're
Yeah.
in 5th edition Ravenloft. We had first edition Ravenloft,
Sure.
2nd edition
Yeah.
Ravenloft.
Yeah,
I don't remember 3rd edition, I'm sure it was there.
probably. Yeah.
And then 4th edition, that didn't happen. And
Yeah. But no, but that adventure, the whole, yeah, it felt like what we were just talking about for our first edition, like check every little last thing.
yeah, but you can actually see the attention to detail.
Right,
that,
lots of detail.
like, older gamers would
Yeah.
really enjoy. And
I
you know,
just saw it as unplayable because it was too much detail.
I lament the rolling of the perception check. Because, hey, I rolled a 20, that's it, there's nothing else in the room? Okay. Well, you didn't check behind stuff, or
Yeah.
inside stuff, or underneath the hay. You can't see things that are have your vision blocked.
Sure.
And
Yep.
so, rolling a perception check to deal with this exploration encounter
Yeah.
is, I'm a little dismayed by that. I would
Yeah.
prefer the older style.
I mean, I wouldn't. So if I had one of these complex rooms, right, and the players walked in and they're just like, you know, perception checks or whatever, that wouldn't be good enough. I mean, if there's something inside a desk, you need to go over and open up the desk. Or you might need to say something like, okay, I go over the desk and I want to open it up all the drawers, I want to poke around, I want to look under it and stuff.
Yep.
Okay, make a perception check, right?
Right,
But then it might be more reasonable.
But even at that point, why would you even require a perception check?
Because they've already said exactly what they're doing.
Right.
So they're definitely going to look at, that's a good point. Yeah.
So at some point, the DC of noticing a pair of scissors in a drawer that you just opened is probably
Trivial.
zero.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if there is a thing to discover, now does he discover the thing under the drawer? No.
Right. Does he discover that one of the legs is hollow and has a cork in it?
Right.
Something
So
stuffed
do you
in
give
there?
him a perception check to notice the fine lines on the desk? Maybe. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Give him clues. Perception checks are good for giving clues,
Right.
but giving them all.
Yeah. No, I get you. All right.
So when I play first edition, we were used to that. There were other things that from first edition, like shooting a dragon in the wings. Used to do something.
Called shots. Yeah.
Yeah, call shots. You could have a dragon come crashing down to the ground by poking holes in its wings.
Right. Yeah.
And the dungeon master would just have to adjudicate.
Yep.
He's probably doesn't have enough wing to keep himself afloat.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing in the rules inherently how to do that in 5th edition, but there are ways you can do that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But it's not the rules. You know what I mean? Which is similar to first edition, which is what kind of goes back to what you were saying, where in 5th edition they came around a little bit to more first edition's way of doing things in certain ways.
Yeah, they gave a lot of power back to the dungeon master to
Yeah.
tell a story. Because
Yep.
if you want to have the dragon, come up with clever strategies for dragon hunting, right? Right. If you go straight by the rules, dragons can fly,
Mm-hmm.
and dealing with the fact that they can fly is what do you do to get it to stop flying?
And they can fly fast too.
Yeah.
It's like 90 feet or something. It's a lot.
Was it 90? I thought it was more than that.
It might be. Yeah.
I remember 3rd edition was like 200 feet.
Really. I mean, I can just imagine. You have the dragon, and like, I strafe by, do my breath weapon, and I fly off for like 2 or 3 rounds
Yeah.
to get it back, and then I come back and I strafe. Or I mean, that's just strafing with the breath weapon. What if I strafe with the breath weapon, snatch somebody up, carry him off about a mile,
Yep.
while I'm clawing at him, just drop him, and then circle back around to everybody else, and you're just slowly picking them off. This guy doesn't need to be dead.
Yeah.
He's 2 miles away. He's out of the combat. He's not coming back.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Or the dragon could just hang out with the one guy and just destroy him. I mean, there are so many different ways that dragon can just like wipe people out. You know what I mean?
And so to come up with clever strategies of taking him out. I
Yeah.
mean, catch him in a web, a net,
Yeah.
harpoon him.
Yeah.
I mean, those are rules that are not in the book.
Right.
But could be.
Sure.
Yeah. You know, the Dungeon Master could allow characters to literally harpoon a dragon like a whale and slowly reel him in.
You'd have to have a pretty strong chain or something to hold them in there. But yeah, and that could be the tactic. I mean, I could see players thinking of that. Like, not my players when they went into the swamp didn't think of that. I don't know what they were thinking. They almost died.
We're hunting dragons. What did you bring to hunt the
They're
dragons?
just like, we just get a boat and we go rowing into the swamp.
Against the acid dragon?
Against the acid dragon, yeah. And I'm
Good.
just like,
You should have just had the resident acid eat the bottom layers of the boat off.
yeah.
Just
Just
rot the wood.
I mean, there is tons of loot in that dragon's lair. They're probably going to go back at some point.
Sure.
But yeah.
Why else would you go after a dragon?
Yeah, the loot.
Great treasure. I mean, I anytime I throw a deadly encounter at people, know that I'm throwing treasure in it.
Yeah.
I'm backing it with treasure.
Right, to reward it, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Reward the foolishness. But great risk, great reward.
Yeah, totally.
That's just like a lesson for life, man. So much of the younger generation is being exposed to these things that tell them that they are great and that they are awesome and they can succeed at damn near anything.
Right.
And you don't really have to work that hard for it.
Yeah.
When I was a kid,
Uh-huh.
I could beat up Mike Tyson in Mike Tyson's Punch Out
Yeah.
if I practiced every day for years,
Yeah.
and eventually I could
Yeah.
do it. Eventually,
Right.
never did. But that's how I grew up, and that's how I learned.
Yeah.
I like the idea of play is to work out things that you're currently dealing with and grappling with. People come to Dungeons and Dragons with all sorts of baggage and what.
Yeah.
And you make a character that you think will interact with the world and do this sort of thing. But if the character in this, if you're coming to Dungeons and Dragons for pure escapism to get away from your crappy life,
Yeah.
it can be. I don't know. I don't think it's doing anybody any but favors. Whereas the game I like to run is a game that is kind of like real life, that will challenge,
Yeah.
that will push you, that will make you grow as a person,
Right.
as a human being.
I think, so regarding the escapism thing, I mean, what is actually going to help that person more if he's trying to escape crappy life, right? To come to a place where he's a superhero 100% of the time, or to come to a place where he's being challenged and he's working hard, but then he's being rewarded from it, you know what I mean? Because I think that something possibly that some people, or maybe it might be a generational thing, but we don't have to work hard, or we don't work hard, and so we never learn the value of hard work and then getting something for that work in return. Whereas if you play a tough game of Dungeons and Dragons, right, you're working hard, you're being challenged, and then if you win, that sense of reward and accomplishment is so much better than if you're just a superhero who can never lose.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. It's like flattery. It's not real.
Yeah, exactly.
You feel great, but it's still not real.
You know it's not real. Yeah. Yeah.
One other thing that I was alluding to earlier that I just wanted to throw out there real quick. The older versions of Dungeons and Dragons were games of chance. Were
Yeah.
absolutely games of chance. You rolled dice, and sometimes when you rolled one dice, your character lived or died based on that one die roll.
Right.
You could have had awesome rolls the entire game session,
Yeah.
but roll one bad die and you're dead.
It's the save or suck thing.
Yeah, save or suck. Critical hits. Dungeon Master rolls the die and he says, "Whoop, 20." Oh, and he just did 100 points of damage to your guy. Your guy explodes. It could happen.
Right.
Um,
Sure.
And in first edition, there were tons of spells that would just kill you.
Yeah.
Flat out. Then there were spells that snuffed out your soul. Like, killed you
That's
dead so that you couldn't even be resurrected. Except for,
It's funny. So, about a half a year ago, so I was bringing a new player into one of my games, and like his very first session, I crap you not, he arrived a half hour late because he thought the game started at a different time than it did. So he arrived right in the middle of a big battle. Okay, came in with this paladin that he had just built up, and like the battle lines were kind of mixed a little bit, and the entrance to the dungeon was over here, and so I put his character there, right next to the two big bosses of the entire dungeon, kind of, you know, and crap you not, within the first 15 minutes of his arriving to my table, disintegration. Could not be raised, totally dead. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
And I was just like, oh crap, man. And I even had the caster. I decided the caster was going to cast disintegration ray, and I even rolled a d6 to determine which of the targets I was actually going to do it, and it landed on him. So I was trying to be a little bit.
well, hitting the paladin with a disintegration ray is probably the nicest thing you could do, because he's got the highest save, right?
That's true. Yeah. So I mean, I felt really bad about that.
Now, speaking of poor paladins, so we're playing Rain and Winter, Pathfinder. Paladin walks into a bar. Stop me if you've heard this one. Paladin walks into a bar in Evil Town, sits down at the table, says, "Barkeep, I noticed that you have an aura of evil about you." So the barkeep pulls a crossbow with human bane arrows out and fires a bane arrow, natural 20, pins the paladin dead to this chair. He never got to roll the dice. That was how the game started. Like, literally walking into this bar and having his character killed. like,
Wait, this is a for real game that
yeah, this is
happened?
a for real game that happened. Like, how unlucky do you have to be to get pinned to a chair dead, even you know,
Yeah, you didn't even do anything.
said one line and dead.
The barkeep's like, I'm not messing with this. The stupid detection aura crap from paladins, man.
Yep.
That's funny.
He's like, "You're evil," and he goes, "Yeah."
You're right, I am evil.
Like that.
See, now in 5th edition, paladins can't sense good and evil. It's
Right.
just like, you know, celestial, fiend, or undead. You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, probably to get around paladins sensing evil in their own party members and then trying to kill them or something. You know, the typical things you would deal with in previous editions.
So one thing to note is there's a game called Hackmaster.
Yeah.
So long time ago, first edition spun off, created second edition and third edition. Well, people wanted to still do first edition stuff.
Yeah.
And they created Hackmaster. Hackmaster's gone through other editions, and in 2014 they came out with their latest edition. I don't know what version it is, but it's got some really interesting rules in Hackmaster that would be very appealing to the older generations.
Yeah.
But the one thing that that was most stark about Hackmaster was it was absolutely a game of chance.
Okay.
And no, from your character creation all the way through everything was a game of chance.
So does that mean your decisions don't matter?
No.
At all?
No, so there was an element that you can control.
Okay.
So it had a build point system. So as you leveled, you got more build points. You could spend these build points on proficiencies, stuff like that. But at the same time, when you bought a proficiency, you had to roll d12 to determine how many points you got in that proficiency.
Right.
So all the while, your character is just surrounded by these random occurrences. You can decide whether you're going to charge the orc with a big shield, with your dagger, you know. And you can win, and you can absolutely win with in that situation.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of chance. The chances stacked against you a little bit, but it's still a lot of chance.
Okay. Yeah.
Made worse by the fact that in this game, the defender and the attacker both roll a d20. Oh yeah, one other cool thing about Hackmaster.
Yeah.
It's an initiative system. counts up. So everybody rolls a d12
Yeah.
to determine their order of initiative. You roll like a 6. The Dungeon Master starts at 1, in 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, 4 second. The game is done in seconds, not rounds.
Okay.
And at 6 seconds, you would get to go. You say, I want to move over here and attack the guy with my sword. So your guy begins to run, and on second 7, he moves a little bit further. On second 8, he moves a little bit further.
Right.
And then he attacks, and then he looks at his weapon speed and says, oh, I get to attack again 7 seconds later.
Yeah.
And so you keep track of that. But here's the cool part. How many times have you as a Dungeon Master said, hey John, it's your turn, what are you going to do? And John's like, oh, what's going on? Right? Well, in Hackmaster, he never says, hey John, it's your turn. Ever. And so he just starts counting up the seconds, and if John isn't paying attention to when he gets to go...
He's standing there doing nothing.
He's standing there doing nothing, and he continues to stand there doing nothing.
So wait a second, so the Dungeon Master says, 1 second, and then players around the table are declaring what they're doing?
Yeah.
And then he says 2 seconds, and I'm still running, I'm still running, I'm still running.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, 7, 8, 9, 10,
Yeah.
and the guy who swung his sword he swung it at, let's say, 8.
Yeah.
He gets to swing it again at 15. So he knows that when the Dungeon Master says 15, I get another swing.
Yeah.
The wizard knows his spell goes off in 7 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
He then rolls for his damage.
So it sounds like they're trying to make the combat system much more realistic, and everything takes time, and the battlefield is changing as that time is
But the
progressing.
cool thing about it was the flip, where the players have to know their own initiative and know when to interject,
Right.
as opposed to me calling on you saying, oh, it's your turn. And how many times has a Dungeon Master called on that player that isn't paying attention?
Yeah.
And then has to re-explain the whole thing to it. Well, in Hackmaster,
Yeah.
you are either paying attention or you're not playing.
Right. Nice.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I thought that was a beautiful mechanic. Yeah, I agree. Might sound cumbersome, but
Yeah.
they promised it gets pretty fast. I can see where people would get really good at it.
Is this a new mechanic for the new Hackmaster?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like that before?
I don't know if it was like that before.
Okay.
I didn't read the old Hackmaster book.
Okay.
I do know weapon speed was a thing way back in first edition.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I remember weapon speed from, might have been a Splat book though, from
Yeah.
3rd edition, but.
Second edition, yeah.
So back to generational differences then. Is there anything else we want to hit on that topic?
No, that is... one major difference though. So those people who are trying to take their video games and bring them to Dungeons and Dragons,
Yeah.
I just want to remind everybody that there's one major difference between Dungeons and Dragons and every video game you've ever played, and that is Dungeons and Dragons is a very social game.
Yeah, definitely.
In other words, you're dealing with people, you're interacting with people, and yes, you have to talk to them too. And you're not out there to get your, big super tier 7 set of armor and only looking out for yourself. No, you're playing a game with friends.
Right.
And in the game, you're allies, and you are still playing a social game. So leave that crap at home. I know most people who play Dungeons and Dragons are introverts. I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
You're probably an introvert.
I'm actually, so, give me 1 second here. So I'm actually, I think I'm an introvert, but like, we did like this stupid testing stuff at work, right?
Yeah.
And like, I came up with, I am an introvert, and everybody on my team, all the tech writers were like, Luke, you are not an introvert, you're an extrovert, shut up.
So I took a psychology class, and I did a personality profile on myself.
Yeah.
I'm actually, I scored right in the middle between extrovert and introvert.
Okay.
Thinking and feeling, I scored right in the middle.
Uh-huh.
And the other categories, I scored right in the middle.
Yeah.
And so I proved scientifically I have no personality.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, but I'm both.
Yeah.
Sometimes I love hanging out with people, and sometimes I love not being with people, and I get energy from both. And sometimes when it's too much, then
It's too much. Yeah.
it's too much.
Yeah, I think about, so I used to do D&D games that were like 8 hours long. Like, crap you not. We would get together at 4 and we would stop at midnight, you know what I mean? And like...
Just at midnight? Wow, they cut it short.
I mean, we were getting kicked out of the game shop.
I mean, there were games that we carried on until 4 a.m. from the hot tub. You know.
Yeah, I remember this one time in high school. We got together, a bunch of us, probably like Friday night or something. We played super early or whatever, and we had a sleepover, right? And like that next morning, like the guys were, let's play D&D again. I'm like, guys, I don't have any more content. And they're like, Luke, just take a couple hours and make something for us and we'll play. I'm like, all right. And I go to my room and I'm like making some adventure up because I did everything homebrew. I never did modules, never, ever. I only started doing modules now in 5th edition a little bit. You know
So
what I mean?
the only reason I'm totally there. The only reason I do modules is when I'm too busy.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
And also when I want to learn how to play the game.
Yeah.
Right? So what did Dungeons and Dragons really mean? So I'm looking through the Ravenloft book going, wow, that's a hard encounter. Wow, that's a deadly encounter. Wow, that's a hard encounter.
Yeah.
Oh my god, everything here is hard and deadly. Well, it's Ravenloft. They want to make a hard and deadly game.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Right. No, that's a good point. I mean, like, so right now I'm actually trying to transition 2 of my groups away from homebrew to modules because you know I'm getting less and less time, like with videos and crap mostly, you know. But I'm sure so
It's your fault.
It's your fault. Yes. So like I'm trying to transition to modules specifically to get myself more time, you know. But learning how to play the game is a good point too. And that's actually one of the reasons why I tinkered with Princes of the Apocalypse for a little bit before we stopped playing that because we liked my homebrew better. But it was basically I wanted to see what an actual module felt like because I'd never run a module before. I've been homebrewing since high school. You know what I mean? That was just the normal way to do it. You know.
My wife is running me through Tomb of Annihilation. And and I have to tell you, you know, it's her first time running a campaign.
She's just doing it with you?
Yeah, she's just doing it with me.
Okay.
I have 4 characters.
Oh, nice. That's fun.
And
It's like being a DM, but you're the player.
Oh. It's cool having 4 characters because they work together like a well-oiled machine.
Yes.
And you're like,
yes.
You know, everybody's playing off of everybody's strengths, and it's just like
that's awesome.
But besides that, what a fantastic module!
Is it really a module?
So I'm enthralled by it, like
Yeah.
exploring all the different places,
Cool.
and you actually have to move across the map in slow ways, and you go to this place and to this place.
Cool.
It's really cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I thought it, in my opinion, it's best, maybe second best after Ravenloft.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's interesting because I know my one group, Sword Coast Guard, wants to do Ravenloft, right? That's our plan next.
Mm-hmm.
My other group, my Manus Invictus group, they're all level 17 right now, and we're in the very last adventure before basically that campaign comes to an end, right? And then one of the other players is going to DM for a little bit, but then I'm going to come back with a module, right? And I haven't had my heart really set on a particular module, you know what I mean? So I might take a look at
Yeah, dude.
Tomb of Annihilation.
There's some fun stuff in there. It's a lighthearted campaign.
Is it? Okay. Okay, cool.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's also the campaign where Asarak makes so if you read Ready Player One and they make reference to it.
Okay.
Not in the movie, but in the book.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen any of that stuff, but.
So, Asarak's famous Super Lich.
Okay.
Dungeons and Dragons lore.
Okay, cool.
So it's very fun.
Yeah, awesome. I'll check that out then. So, all right. Any last thing about generational differences?
Yeah, no. That's about all. The things that I came up with, things that I've noticed that I've come up on, some of the stumbling blocks that I've hit with some of my players.
Right. Yeah. Totally. I mean, that's really good information for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to think about what they experience on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And understand what you're either working with or working against.
Right.
Because if somebody is all Final Fantasy VII, giant sword wielding, dealing 999 points of damage a hit, 9,999 points of damage a hit, and gets 27 hits, you know, you got to take them from there and bring them to Dungeons and Dragons, which is a very different. Can be a very different game.
Yeah.
Or you could try to run a Final Fantasy style game.
You could. Yeah.
Where ridiculous stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
But So just know what you're working with.
Yeah.
The old timer
Awesome.
wants detail. The young guy wants superhero.
Kick butt and bubble gum and
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
He wants Omnislash.
Yeah, that's good. So I think this video probably is about to be like almost a couple hours long or some crap. So
I am sorry. Since nobody's actually gonna make it to this point.
nobody's watching this at this point. We can say whatever we want.
Right,
Nobody's
right.
ever gonna hear it.
Yeah.
Right? So if you got this far in the video, like leave a comment down below that says what? What can it say?
I don't know. We could promise them like a brand new automobile. Success. You won.
Okay, so if you made it this far in the video, that's what we want you to do. Leave a comment down below telling what kind of car you want us to buy you.
Yes.
Alright? And then if like we see a kind of like 50-50, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah, alright. So you guys got that? Alright, do
Yeah.
that. Good. There we go.
1970, probably clunker version. Of
Yeah.
it.
You'll get something.
Yeah.
Just let us know in the comments.
All right.
Alright, here we go.